I'll give you a double reminder that just in a few weeks, we're going to be having our Shrove Tuesday pancake supper, and Kelly has promised us some fun trivia as part of that event, right? So I'm gonna give a little teaser to that with a little mini trivia of my own right now, and hopefully it's fun, because you might have seen Saturday Night Live once or twice in your life over the 70 years it's been on TV, right? So I'm going to give you a little catchphrase from SNL, and then you can tell me either the actor who said it or the name of the character, either one. And we're just going to do 3 of these. So first one is, I have a disease, and the only prescription is more cowbell. Anyone? Christopher Walken, yes, thank you. I don't know, does his character have a name in that? Right, Christopher Walken. Okay, second one. Well, isn't that special? Church lady. Thank you. All right, one more. We want to pump you up. Hans and Franz, yeah, we're really close with Arnold, because Arnold's going to come up here. Hans and Franz. So these were the bodybuilder guys, right? We want to pump you up. Except they weren't really. There wasn't much going on there, was there? It was just kind of an inflatable bodysuit, and I listened to an interview with I think Kevin Nealon and Dana Carvey. Dana Carvey got 2 mentions in this one. He's a church lady too, but I listened to an interview with these guys, and they love to joke about how Hans and Franz never actually work out. They've done, 10 or 20 of these sketches, and at no point does any of them do any exercise. They just talk, right? I went back and watched some of these sketches for this sermon. They don't hold up, you guys. They're not that funny, it turns out. Like it's in our heads as being this hilarious sketch, and you go back and watch it, and you're like, there's nothing there. That kind of fits into my sermon, though, because, yeah, they just had these inflated. They might as well. I mean, they were pumped up, but they were basically pumped up like an air mattress, right? I mean, it was just it's all air, and that was part of the joke, actually. They love to talk about how to pump you up. They also love to talk about their hero, who also apparently was their cousin, Ah-nold, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger, they had pictures of him up on the wall. They talk about Ah-nold all the time, and that he is their hero. Which kind of made sense, because they were just, they were pumping themselves up, puffing themselves up, right, to look like this guy. But this guy was the real deal. He had, he put in the work. He did the real bodybuilder. He was the bodybuilder. And they just talked. So they were all talk. He was all muscle. But so Arnold is a real bodybuilder. And we kind of see this contrast a little bit too when we look at 1 Corinthians, our reading right off the bat. Paul is saying, yeah, knowledge, lots of knowledge out there, right? But he talks about one thing that puffs up and one thing that builds up. And of course, the thing that puffs up, I just said, is knowledge. But the thing that builds up is, you guys were here when we read that, right? What builds up? Love. Knowledge puffs up. Love builds up. And Paul is this very knowledgeable guy, right? He has a lot to say, but he has these moments that we have to pay attention to. And 1 Corinthians is a great book for that. As in later in chapter 13. What chapter are we in here? In 8. Later on in chapter 13, it's all about love and contrasting love with other things. Things like knowledge. Things like trivia. And we can have some fun with trivia about what we remember from years ago, whether it's SNL and entertainment, or whether it's Mardi Gras trivia, or any number of things. It's fun, right? And sometimes it's really useful. We use knowledge, of course. And I went through seminary and did all that. There's a lot of things that I had to know. And we went through confirmation class, right? Remember that? A lot of things to learn, a lot of things to know. But Paul is cautioning us here. We can get hung up on trivia so easily And then we get distracted and focused on that. And we start to think that being a part of this Bible, that's what it's all about. It's all about what you know, and all about having the correct opinion, or having the correct view, worldview, or the correct theology, the correct doctrine, the correct liturgy, on and on and on. But we're never going to agree on that, because it's not the point anyway. And we see a contrast in the gospel, too. We see Jesus in the synagogue at Capernaum. And when he casts out this unclean spirit, what do the scribes call it? Did you notice that? They didn't say, well, this is a new fantastic work. They said, this is a new teaching. Because the scribes are very knowledge-oriented, and they have knowledge like we couldn't believe. I mean, a lot of these scribes, they could quote the entire Torah. They could quote 5 books of Moses. If you gave them the time, they would do it for you. And that wasn't even special. They had all the knowledge. But you're not supposed to create something new. You're supposed to build on everything that's old. And that's why they memorized all of this old stuff, so that they could put the pieces together and they could lead the people with this knowledge. But when somebody comes along with a new teaching, that just blows everything up. Which is why it's pretty important that that person bringing that new teaching brings it from a place of real authority. And they use that word. I preached about that recently. That Hebrew word, it's kind of a funny word, smicha. It's a special authority. It's authority that has to come from somewhere. And we can relate to it a little bit with our apostolic succession, how like it takes, in order to make a new bishop, it takes 2, or is it 3 bishops to make a new bishop. I think Mary's at 3. It takes 3. Well, in the case of authority and smicha in rabbinic culture, it took 2 rabbis with that authority to confer one new rabbi with that high-level authority. And if they did, then they could create new teachings. And there are some who would point out that it was John the Baptist and God the Father who were the two people who conferred that authority on Jesus. But they didn't know that. These scribes are like, where are you getting this from, this new teaching? Are you really allowed to be doing this right now? But Jesus is not really all that concerned with their knowledge and their teachings. He's not focused on his academic reputation. That's not what he came for. And it's like that old cliche. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And yeah, it's a cliche, but it's because it's true. And Jesus was very much focused on this. This is like, well, yeah, knowledge. We see Jesus as a knowledgeable person. He knows as much as the scribes, if not more, probably a lot more. But he's not focused on that. He's focused on being a builder of the body. Hans and Franz are all talk. Ah-nold put in the work. These scribes, they love to talk. Jesus was there to put in the work. He was a real body builder. And if he was, it was only so that he could show us how to do it. And as we are out here in the church, in churches, with these bodies of Christ, trying to build them up, trying to build up each individual, trying to build up our numbers even, and to see what God can do in us, there's a lot of voices coming in from the other side, like Hans and Franz, trying to puff us up. We're saying, no, we're trying to build something real. We're trying to build something lasting and something true. And you get these books on church planting or church revitalization or whatever, that they have long checklists of all. You gotta have your audience. You gotta have your message. You have to have your brand. You gotta have your location. You gotta get your hospitality worked out. You gotta have your leadership team. You gotta have your music team. You have to have your materials printed and your website and your newsletter and your social media and your sound system. Do I have to keep going? Are those things wrong, or are they unimportant? No. No, they're fine. But is that the point? Is that the thing that's actually going to change our lives and help us to change the lives of everybody driving by on that street out there? No, it's logistics. It's trivia. And I like trivia, but it's not the point. And so Jesus came to show us how to do the work. To enjoy and be entertained by the trivia, and that's fine, and to let people puff themselves up with knowledge all they want, and we can have some fun with that too. But then, like Ah-nold, it's time to let go of the inflatable and to take on what's real. And yeah, I mean, Ah-nold's bodybuilding was a little flashy too, right? There was some show in it, but it was real because here's how, in case you're ever having trouble telling the difference between Hans and Franz and between Ah-nold, which nobody is, but in case you were, just hand him something heavy. Here, would you carry this barbell for me, this anchor for me, this anvil for me, or whatever? Hans and Franz are going to crumple, right? Because it's all air, it's all talk. But Ah-nold can carry it for you because he put in the work. And what he has is real. And is that what we're doing here or not? Are we putting in the love that actually builds us up so that we can carry each other's burdens? So that we're strong enough to lift up each other when we're down. That's how you know. If you look around and you ask yourself if something real is being built here, try it out. See how we lift one another up. See if those muscles are there to carry each other's burdens week in and week out. And you start that by doing it yourself. That's a mistake we make sometimes. We come into a place and like, here's all my burdens, please, I'm down, lift me up. And we're like, whoa, hi, I'm Ryan. Can we get acquainted first? No, step in and do it. Try it yourself. Kick those tires. Figure out if it's real. And I think here you will. And that's what helped me to understand that I belonged here, was to see that the work is being done, the burdens are being carried. People are being lifted up when they're down. But we can do more. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Never forget that. Amen.